I think that idea of screen awareness really is designed, intentionally to say screens are going to be part of our daily lives. They're part of our environments. And what we're doing is we're really seeking to provide guidance for practitioners and families that is viable.
Welcome to the Healthy Screen Habits Podcast. I'm Hillary Wilkinson. Whether you're starting your parenting journey with a newborn or looking to connect with your teen on technology, let's learn some new healthy screen habits together. Technologies change. Children's developmental needs do not. That is the opening tagline of a postcard that is being distributed by the Early Childhood Work Group from Screen Action Network at Fairplay, a work group that yours truly is both a member and supporter of. The postcard is part of a screen-aware action kit that you can get free online to support the practice of offline experiences for the very young. My guests today are foundational in the creation of the screen-aware action kit. Paer and Mindy Holohan are passionate about prioritizing developmental needs and well-being of young children amidst many confusing and sometimes misleading messages about screen-based technologies. Before we dive in, since there are two of you, let's spend a little bit of time on introductions. That way people can recognize your voices. Lauren, what is your role at Fairplay and how do you like to have fun?
Hi, Hillary. First, I just want to say thank you so much for having us. It's so good to be here. I am the project manager at Fairplay's Screen Time Action Network. The Screen Time Action Network is a global collaborative community of almost 2,000 practitioners, educators, medical professionals, parents, and youth advocates working to reduce excessive screen use in childhood and keep kids safe online. Our parent organization, Fairplay, is a leading watchdog for children's marketing and digital manipulation. In my role as the project manager at the Action Network, I oversee our 6 volunteer work groups, helping guide their projects and sometimes jumping in on projects like I did with the Action Kit.
For sure.
I also oversee our volunteers, run our LinkedIn, and provide strategic input and operational support to our director, Jean Rogers. As far as what I do for fun, I'm very lucky to live in Hawaii and I love to be in the ocean, especially bodyboarding and surfing. There's just nothing like being out in the waves and catching a clean face. That is really heaven for me.
So, Mindy, can you tell us what you do with the Screen Time Action Network? And my second question is, if you get to choose the restaurant, what kind of cuisine are you going for?
Ooh, so I am privileged to get to co-chair the Early Childhood Work Group. So one of the 6 that Lauren just mentioned, with Shweta Pies, and she is in Austin, Texas, and I am in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we have been doing that work together since the inaugural conference, the Screen Time Action Network conference. And I get to choose. I like tapas because I can never decide what I want to eat. And so I get a little bit of everything.
I understand. Love a charcuterie board. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no screen time for babies up to 18 months, minimal screen time, and only with an adult co-viewing for toddlers 18 months to 2 years, and no more than 1 hour per day of screen media entertainment for preschoolers. Since this season is about tech tots and littles, and since this is the early childhood work group, I thought this is a perfect time to ask you guys, what's wrong with screens? And aren't kids today just learning differently? That's what I hear, parents sharing, like, maybe this is just the way we're headed. Maybe we're just learning differently.
Yeah, that's a great question, Hillary, or great two questions. I'm going to take the second one on first. Um, Children are not learning differently today. That is a myth, a fairly pervasive myth. And as you mentioned in the intro, one of the mottos of the early childhood work group is while technologies change, children's developmental needs do not. Evolution does not work that quickly. And there is simply no evidence that screen-based experiences provide young children the learning benefits that social interactions do, or creative play, manipulating three-dimensional objects. And it's just not true that young children today are well adapted to learn on screens, even if they are spending more and more time on screens. To your first question, nothing is wrong with a little screen time, and parents should not feel guilty about giving their children a little bit of screen time. However, screens are highly stimulating to our nervous system, which is one of the reasons we see children so attracted to them. This is most true of content that is loud and fast moving, but it is a feature of screens in general. And one of our advisory board members at the Screen Time Action Network, Dr. Victoria Dunkley, makes this case very well in her book, Reset Your Child's Brain. She cites a lot of research showing that excessive screen time dysregulates children's nervous system, and this has a slew of follow-on effects. And more research is coming out all of the time to support it. For example, there was a study just published by JAMA on January 30th of this year, 2023, where researchers found that increased use of screen time during infancy was associated with poorer executive functioning once the child was 9 years old. And executive functioning, for those not familiar with the term, it's sort of an umbrella term for high-level mental processes that enable us to plan, exercise self-control, focus, remember, and more. So these are very critical skills that are all undergirded by executive function. And this paper is suggesting that screen use in those formative years has lasting impacts many years later. There was another recent paper published by Dr. Hutton that showed a link between young children's screen uses and actual changes to their brain structure. So screens are very powerful, and that's why it's so important to be mindful. And I'll just really quickly add one more thing, that is, we're seeing that these days some children are spending so much time on screens, so many hours, that it's also crowding out time for other important activities that we know are necessary for healthy development. So that is the creative, unstructured play, physical manipulation of three-dimensional objects, and of course, time interacting directly with their parents and other loving adults, and also with other children.
Right. It's really fascinating, the research, and thank you for sharing that continually seems to come out as we go younger and younger in our exploration of the long-lasting impacts that technology is having. So today we are going to be getting this introduction to a brand new resource, which was developed and designed by the Early Childhood Work Group at the Action Network. And that is the Screen Aware Early Childhood Action Kit. So the title is like very cool and fun. Anything with action always kind of piques my interest. But what does it mean to be screen aware?
The choice of being screen aware was a very intentional one. And it was really in response, to what we hear from early childhood practitioners and families with, with young children, that finding guidance, for making decisions around screen use and managing screen technologies and kind of navigating what we think of as like the screen-based ecosystems that we're all embedded in, is really, really challenging. And when people seek guidance or seek, to build understanding, they tend to like encounter extremes, so like on one end, there's guidance that's actually very well informed and well intentioned, but ends up feeling very prescriptive, like,
And I feel like there's also like sometimes even unintentionally, there's a built-in element of like, you're doing it wrong. Like,
exactly. And
like
so,
which feels very like adjacent to shame, which is, I mean, I think if any early childhood educator ever, like nobody wants that.
exactly. That's like the opposite outcome. And so really well-intentioned approaches can also leave people feeling like overwhelmed and kind of paralyzed, and navigating those feelings of just what you said, like guilt, because I'm not doing it right, or there's a right way and I'm not doing it, or and then that shame, which I think does kind of feed that more paralysis of like, well, I just can't get this right, so I'm just not going to do anything, and then on the other end, there's like all the confusion and pressure that is generated by like the for-profit industries that are pushing out these products and messages around the technologies that can be very misleading, thinking that maybe I should be doing more reading activities on a tablet because there's this program, and maybe that will, enhance my child's ability to read. Or, for the early childhood practitioner, going to a conference and there's all these new gadgets and devices for the classroom that are shiny and programs might think they want to be like on the cutting edge, so might think about taking that precious space I have. We've both taught in classrooms. We're always trying to be creative with where to put things, but making, like feeling pressure to like maybe move out like a sand table or something so that we can put in a computer corner, or like one of the products, that I saw recently that I'm having a hard time processing is, like a very large kind of table that serves as a,
I've
like
seen the same thing.
Big tablet, right?
I've seen the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to take the place of a sand and water table and like mimic those types of activities. And it's being billed as like without the mess.
Exactly.
Which to me, I cannot think of anything like more abhorrent than wanting to not be involved with the mess of early learning.
But
I mean, that's what it needs to happen. That's what it needs to happen.
Right. So there's that end though that people are also like thinking, well, maybe I this is novel and it's the next thing, and maybe we should do this. And, and so there's that end of the spectrum. And for parents too, like just a lot of pressures about, what the promises of this screen technology, many of which fall very flat. But what we don't really tend to have is like a way like down the middle. And I think, the approach towards screen awareness is we're saying, okay, both ends of these spectrums exist. We will all be exposed to them and navigating them. Some people might migrate more one way or have to migrate more. I might not have a choice of what equipment is in my classroom. Or, like we found during the pandemic, like a lot of people, young children now were on screens to preserve, their engagement with programs and things like that maybe hadn't been previously used. So we know that, it's going to be complex, but, instead of, but to have a way forward. And I think that idea of screen awareness really is designed, intentionally to say screens are going to be part of our daily lives. They're part of our environments. And what we're doing is we're really seeking to provide guidance for practitioners and families that is viable, that,
Mhm.
is actionable, that is rooted in the research, and in best practices, but also considers the many different realities on the ground. And it really, is designed to like have people feel like they're in the driver's seats.
Perfect. Yeah.
And the guiding variable in that is that it is always bringing us back to what is appropriate for child development.
Developmentally
Making our
appropriate
dish,
practice.
so like
Mhm.
developmentally centered. So helping reduce the noise, the guilt, the pressure, and bringing it back to like a simpler, framework, which is like being guided by what we know is best for child development, what is best for human relationships, making our decisions and organizing ourselves accordingly. And to that
Perfect.
end, it is also very important um, to remember that screen awareness is not just about a child's engagement with screens, but also adults' decisions around screens and screen time and screen use as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree. So when we come back, we're going to hear more about this free, amazing resource, who can benefit from getting it and staying intentional, and how it can be used.
Are you looking to get your child a phone but don't know where to start? Good news. Healthy Screen Habits has done the legwork for you, and our answer is Gab Wireless. Gab Wireless created the phone that parents have all been asking for. It can text but doesn't receive or send pictures. It looks like a smartphone with a touchscreen, has talk, text, calculator, calendar, FM radio, and alarm functions, but no internet. Setup is super easy. Plug it in and start charging. Activation is free, shipping is free, and the best news is that Gab Wireless phones start at under $100. Now, even more good news. You can get $5 off your order of a Gab Wireless phone by using the promo code HS Habits. That's HS Habits, like healthy screen habits, but short. You can find a link to Gab Wireless under the Tools tab on our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org. Press and hold the tab menu and look under Products We Endorse in the drop-down menu.
My guests are Paer and Mindy Holohan, both of whom are here representing the early childhood work group of the Children's Screen Time Action Network at Fairplay. The work group is comprised of a diverse array of early childhood advocates and professionals who work to nurture, organize, and promote initiatives in alignment with the developmental needs of young children, their families, and the needs of practitioners serving them. It's a really big group, and they have been working hard on this exciting new resource. We've been talking about it, the Screen Aware Early Childhood Action Kit. And I think the best way to find out about it is just like, let's dive in. What is this?
As the name somewhat suggests, it's a kit to help ground the practice of screen awareness, which Mindy just spoke to and did a great job giving a nice summary of. So the kit is to provide parents, caretakers, early childhood professionals with both the why and the how. And we took pains to try to be as concise as possible. It's a collection of resources that provides guidance for prioritizing healthy child development in our screen-saturated world, strategies for managing screen use. This is both for children and for adults. It has research-based information on the impacts of screen technologies and resources for promoting screen awareness, both at home and in the classroom.
So what led to the creation of this kit? What was the driving force behind it?
When we first formed the early childhood work group, we conducted a kind of series of surveys of the members and in those surveys, we learned that one of the top needs, like felt needs of the group, was usable, actionable accessible, printable resources. So there seemed to be kind of a dearth of that. And then we did a more expanded kind of needs assessment. So work group members then took out, once we decided we're going to create this resource, collection, what kinds of things are people needing? What topics do they feel like they need information on? And so then that got pushed out. And so we heard from an even broader, bigger group of folks, and again, like across practices, everything from speech language pathologists to librarians to folks that work in children's museums, grandparents, and heard more about the priorities that people had in terms of like the information they need and want. And that is what informed its development.
Great.
Our kind of premise has been like, we can have the best resource in the world, but if it's not responsive to what people are looking for, it's not going to make the impact that we hope.
Great. Who do you see using it?
Well, we always say kind of like, we want a big tent here, right? There are resources in it that are more specific to the needs maybe of a practitioner. So there's some that are focused on classroom settings. There's some that might be more relevant to families that are focused on home settings, but the scope of the content is widely useful, and applicable. And we've so far received enthusiastic responses from everything from pediatricians who want to have pieces in the waiting room, or speech and language, like home visitors who are eager to disperse it with families and talk about it directly, early childhood care providers, educators that are looking for things to share out with families, maybe to go home in a backpack or something. So we're hoping it has a really wide range of uses and applications.
Yeah. So can you talk about how it's put together? You talked about how you gathered all of the kind of intel and what was needed. But the thing that I like about it is it's put together in a readily comprehensible format. That means it's easy to understand how I'm going to use this. The trick here is we have to take this very visual based thing and translate it to podcast. So can you kind of lead us through how it's put together? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And to drill down a bit more into its components. So I would say the biggest element of it is our fact and action sheets. And these are 10 double-sided sheets on the topics, as Mindy mentioned, that we found people were most hungry for. And the front side is the side with facts. So that is boiled down, research-based information on the topic. And then the back side is the action sheet. So that is concrete actions that parents or early childhood professionals can take.
Like activities.
Exactly. And so, for example, our first sheet is on learning and development. And on the fact side, it asks, what do young children need? And it goes through the most important developmental needs of young children. And then it also asks, can screens meet a child's needs? And it goes through answers to that question. And it's all cited and backed up by research. And then you flip it over, and there is a smattering of activities for different categories of development. Like if I am trying to encourage cognitive and brain development, what are a few activities that I can do with my young child? Or social emotional development.
Can you give an example, Lauren? I just want to give an example of like one of the activities. So people aren't thinking we're citing all this research, we're doing all this like high level stuff. I don't want people to think these activities are something beyond their scope of what they have, say, in their kitchen. So could you give like some examples of activities?
Yeah, absolutely. So for cognitive and brain development, that could be sorting and counting objects, or working with opposites, identifying opposites. And we also have a physical development section. So that is crawling, jumping, swinging. None of this is rocket science. It's just that busy parents have so much on their mind. We've been told that for particularly the backside of the first sheet on learning and development is something you could stick on your fridge. And then instead of having to keep it all in your head, it's something you can quickly refer to.
I love it because, as one of my colleagues at Healthy Screen Habits here, Amy Adams, likes to say, common knowledge is not common practice.
Right.
And this is something that can take that practice and just outline it of like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm making dinner here and, hand, 3 different colors of cups. And can you put the oranges together, the blues or whatever? So I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. And another one I was going to mention is like our advertising and media literacy. And on that one, the actions are more question based, right? So questions that parents can ask their children before allowing a show or an app. So that kind of gives you a flavor of the sheets. Other components to the kit rather include printable signs, which could be posters. If you print them big enough, they're ready to print, they're designed, and it's just something to remind us in a visual way for an area that is meant to be a phone-free space, a place to prioritize hands-on play or face-to-face interaction. And the signs actually have those positive elements highlighted so that it's not all about no screens, but highlighting the positive activities that space is meant to encourage instead of screens. And the third piece of the kit is customizable letter templates. So these are adaptable letters. They're in Word documents, so you can download and edit them as you see fit. They are to advocate for screen awareness in the home and classroom setting. So we have one letter that is written from the perspective of parents to their early childhood center, asking them and explaining the importance of screen awareness and asking them to consider becoming a screen aware practice. And then there's another letter in the other direction. If you're an early childhood center and you're wanting parents to be aware of the benefits of screen awareness, there's a template for you too, because we really see families and early childhood centers as partners in creating screen aware childhoods.
It can really be a generational shift. I think with a tool like this, you can really enact generational change for the better. So I feel like these pages are something that I would pick up at, like, say, my pediatrician's office, or maybe even like children's story hour at the library. And if people would like more information on the Screen Aware Early Childhood Action Kit, or to just, like you said, kind of give maybe that nudge of, would you consider becoming a screen aware practice to childcare providers or other early childhood practitioners, where can they find it? Where can they look for it?
They can find it at our website, which is fairplay4kids.org/P as in Peter, F as in Frank, /EC kit. That's E for early, C for childhood, kit, KIT.
Excellent. And I'll link all of that stuff to these show notes too. So if you're listening and you're thinking, oh gosh, I need to write that down, but I'm in the car, do not write something down while you're in the car. Just come and visit healthyscreenhabits.org, and this will be in the show notes. So now's my favorite. Well, all of this has been my favorite part, but I feel like you guys have so much knowledge and wisdom between the two of you. I don't want to miss out on like any big thing that you wish parents knew about technology. And so I'm springing this at you guys. Okay. But do either of you have something that you wish every parent knew about screen time and fostering healthy early childhood development?
I'll go first. There's absolutely nothing better than the parents themselves or the caregivers themselves. Child development is very different than adult development. And a child, really, we have to trust that and watch it and learn from it. And that can be such a relief. It can be such a relief to know that we don't have to keep up with all of this, all the incoming devices and programs and apps and things. They don't need it. To the contrary, it can get in the way of their core needs.
For sure.
But,
Just
it's
trusting.
hard because there's so much coming at parents that's sending a different message that they're not enough.
Mm-hmm. Right. Lauren, is there something that you could share that you wish every parent knew?
Yeah, I would definitely second what Mindy just said, and I would add to it how important unstructured, creative, free play is for children. This is something I did not realize until I got interested in screens, and it was sort of a backwards way to my education of child development. But to a normal adult, it kind of looks recreational, like a little bonus. It's not. It's core to childhood. It is the basis for problem solving, for creativity, for self-discovery as they play with other children, for interpersonal negotiations. Please understand how valuable and important that play is to your child and all young children.
Right. And I love that you add in that component of unstructured play, because I think in this very busy world that we live in, we're continually checking boxes. And it's like, if we're not like, okay, we're at soccer practice, we're doing this, we're doing that. And somehow watching just unstructured hangout can almost be a little unsettling to parents, because you feel like I'm not doing enough, but actually that is where some of the greatest development occurs.
Absolutely. And yes, doing what's right for your child doesn't always have to be hard, and it doesn't always have to involve you entertaining. That's, in fact, letting your child do their own thing, as you just said, is so valuable to them. So I hope that is a bit liberating.
So we have to take a short break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask our early childhood experts for their healthy screen habit.
At what age should I give my child a smartphone? How much screen time should I allow each day? What are the best filters to use on my family's devices? Sound familiar? These questions and more are answered at the Healthy Screen Habits website. We've curated the best articles, books, videos, and many other resources to help you figure out how you want to use technology in your life. Click on the awareness section to learn about the issues and dangers surrounding screen use. Then click on the Tools page to download printables you can use with your family today, including the Healthy Screen Habits Family Technology Plan. Visit our website at www.healthyscreenhabits.org for the resources and tools you need to get started.
We're back. I'm here with Lauren Paer and Mindy Holohan from the Early Childhood Work Group of the Screen Time Action Network at Fairplay. Fun fact, Lauren hosted a show called Screen Time Reset in her home state of Hawaii that you can still watch on YouTube. And Mindy is a faculty member in the Family Science program in the College of Education and Human Development at Western Michigan University. So, ladies, on every episode of the Healthy Screen Habits podcast, I want to give our listeners really something for their time. And this comes in the form of a healthy screen habit, which is a tip or takeaway that can be put into practice nearly immediately. Do you have a healthy screen habit to share with us today?
Absolutely. One that I have been working to practice myself is sharing with the people that I am with, if I need to be on my device, what it is I am doing and why I am on it. So, and I think that also is a wonderful practice for young children, because they don't know. They just know that your attention is not with them. And so for them to have the clarity that, I will be right with you, but I need to finish looking at this recipe, or I will be right with you. I'm just texting, dad to tell him we're out of milk. It can go such a long way in terms of how they are processing those interactions.
I love that practice. And I have found, so I'm a little bit further down the parenting road in that I have teenagers, and what I appreciate is them reciprocating that. So when I'm talking to them, if say my daughter, she works in the neighborhood a lot. She walks dogs. We live in an area with a lot of horses. She takes care of stalls, etc. My daughter is texting. She'll tell me, I'm just texting with so-and-so to confirm schedule and because I find myself getting super judgmental of when I see my kid on a phone. So I love that because it goes both ways.
That's wonderful.
Lauren, do you have? Yeah.
My tip would be TV over tablets. And I am going to run through a few reasons very quickly why I think it is such a superior way to consume screens, the screen time that young children do consume. First, it has a stable place, so it doesn't feel like an appendage of theirs or that it follows them everywhere. Second, it's much easier for parents to keep tabs on what their children is watching. Third, it's more conducive to cuddling or physical interaction, whereas when you're holding a tablet, that is not the case. Fourth, it teaches children to share, especially if they have siblings. I know that was a big message of my childhood, which was filled with way too much TV, but I had to compromise with my brother and sister. And lastly, 5, it creates a shared family culture. If you're consuming the same content, you have inside jokes, you have common knowledge. And so it's funny to be promoting TV because it's not that TV doesn't have its issues, but I do think, especially from young children, it is a superior screen than tablets.
Yeah, no, and I like that. It falls in line with the being screen aware of knowing why you're consuming the screen time or why you're using the screen time that you are and for what purpose. It still keeps things very intentional. As always, a link to the action kit and a complete transcript of this conversation can be found in today's episode show notes. You get there by going to healthyscreenhabits.org. Click on the podcast button at the top of the page and scroll down to find this episode. So Lauren, Mindy, this has been great. Thank you so much for all that you do for the Action Network. Your work just extends and extends. And in advocating for our 0 to 5 crowd, who I just think needs the biggest cheerleaders. And thank you especially for sharing it here today. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Healthy Screen Habits. Make sure to visit our website, healthyscreenhabits.org, where you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or via RSS, so you'll never miss an episode. It's free, it's fun, and you get a healthy new screen habit each week. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you giving us a quick rating. It really does help other people find us and spread the word of healthy screen habits. Or if you'd simply like to tell a friend, we'd love that too. I so appreciate you spending your time with me this week, and I look forward to learning more healthy habits together.